Nehemiah chapter number 2. And good morning. Welcome back to church. Yesterday was pretty awesome with the weather. Today it's snowing again. So that is February. So Nehemiah chapter number 2, verse number 20 says, Then answered I them and said unto them, The God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for your blessings. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. Thank you for bringing us here to church. Thank you for bringing us here safely. I pray that you feed us, and I pray that we be coming to church wanting to be fed and wanting to receive from your word what the preachers and the teachers have prepared. I pray that you be with Pastor Crone here later today. I pray that you just be with his spirit. I pray that he be ready. I pray that there be no distractions within the service or within himself. And I pray that your spirit just work freely here today and have the impact and see the desired fruit that you'd want to have. And I pray that, again, just bless me and my clarity of thought. I pray that I'd be able to say everything that you want me to say, nothing more, nothing less. Amen. All right, so we're going to focus on the story of Nehemiah here for the beginning of the lesson, and then we're going to kind of go back and forth between another story. But first of all, we're going to focus on the story of Nehemiah. So we're going to go to the beginning here of verse number 1, and we're going to read actually through the first couple chapters, and we're going to kind of get a grasp exactly what Nehemiah is dealing with, what's going on. Right, in verse number 1, it says, The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hekeliah, And it came to pass in the month Chislew, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the palace, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came, he and certain men of Judah, and I asked certain men of Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said unto me, The remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. So Nehemiah is in the palace. He's just doing his job. He's going about his life. And then there's Jews that come from Jerusalem, and he knows them. They've come in, and they're giving him an update about Jerusalem. They're saying Jerusalem has collapsed. The walls are completely barren. They are not standing. The people there are being afflicted. They are reproached. They're burdened. They're in a really tough spot. And Nehemiah is burdened with this, as we see in verse number 4. It says, And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days, and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. He's obviously deeply affected. He goes straight to God. He mourns. This is deeply impacting him. Verse number 5, And said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, that the horrible and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him, and observe his commandments, let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which ye have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which thou commandest thy servant Moses. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, If ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them, though there were of you cast out into the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants, who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. He's essentially saying, God, this is really affecting me. We are in a bad spot. We're in a spot that's completely vulnerable. We're being afflicted. We're being reproached at every turn. It seems like it says here, the walls of Jerusalem were burned with fire. And he's basically saying, we know we've done wrong. We know we have not been as holy as we possibly could be. We know we've not even really tried. We completely turned away from you. We do not deserve your mercy. We don't deserve anything from you. But God, I'm praying that you do hear my prayer. I pray that you turn and you be merciful to us and give us what we don't deserve and take away what we do deserve. And he's basically saying, grant him mercy in the sight of this man. Grant me mercy in the sight of the king. Verse number 2, and it says, It came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, the king, that wine was before him, And I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. He said, I've never been sad in the presence of the king. I never have been. That's really, you're not supposed to be. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of the heart. Then I was very sore afraid. And said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. His countenance is obviously changed with the king. The king notices that his servant, one of his trusted men, his cupbearer, is not even happy to be in the same room with the king, to be around the king. At this time, if you're a servant and you're serving the king, you're not supposed to be begrudging. You're not supposed to have an attitude. You're around the king. The king can definitely punish you if you're doing that. That's just general conduct at that time. You're not supposed to have a sad countenance. So that's why he was scared when he was asked and he was noticed. The king's like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you conducting yourself the way you're supposed to? You're in my presence. Why are you not happy? And he says, how can I be happy when the place that I'm from, when the city that I grew up in is at waste? How can I be happy in this situation? So Nehemiah turns around, and instead of hiding it from the king, he's just extremely blunt with him. He just goes for it. He says, you know what? I'm just going to say it. And then in verse number 4, it says, So I prayed to the God of heaven. So he uttered just a little bit of a prayer. And then Nehemiah says unto the king, And I said unto the king, If it please the king and thy servant, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, and unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall thy journey be, and when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, If it please the king, let letters be given to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come unto Judah. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palaces, which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. Then I came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king and the set captains of the army and horsemen with me, when Sanballat the Horonite and the Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. So we already see here that there's people opposing Nehemiah, what he's going to try to do, what he's going to try to build the wall of Jerusalem. There's already people that are sad. They want the Jews to be completely exposed. They want them to be vulnerable because it benefits them. Verse number 12, it says, And I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, into the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. Then I went on to the gate of the fountain, into the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. Then went I up in the night by the brook, and viewed the wall, and turned back, and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. And the rulers knew not whither I went, nor what I did. Neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, let we be not more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem and the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us, and said, What is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? Then answered I them and said unto them, The God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we as servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion nor right nor memorial in Jerusalem. Ultimately, that's a big introduction that I wanted to explain. I wanted to explain where Nehemiah is, okay? He has taken some risks. He is obviously burdened. He's affected. This is not just something he's casually doing. This is something that really burdens his heart. This is something that he's communicated with God about. Ultimately, Nehemiah has been sent to do a job. He's been sent to complete a task. He's been given something very, very important to do. He took it upon himself. It was because he heard that there was a need and he decided to do it. And these men were tasked to do it. It was a big job. It was going to be hard. They were going to be opposed. Already we see here specific names of specific people of power that heard that he was coming, and his goal was to be for the welfare of Jerusalem. and they were automatically bothered. They were automatically frustrated. They were automatically just like, why is he here? We cannot let this happen. They were going to be opposed by outward resistance in the forms of intimidation, legislation, and even physical violence. They were going to be tempted to slack off, to give half effort, and not take the job seriously. Yet the fact still remained, there was a job to do. It was important. It was a very big picture job. It was a big job that had to be done. And they were going to be tempted, like I said, to just slack off. Just, you know what, today I'm going to give half effort. I'm not going to put that much effort into it. I'm going to just check the boxes. I'm going to wake up, I don't really feel it today. I don't really feel like working today. Nehemiah, as we see here, he was burdened. In the last couple of verses of chapter number 2, you may wonder, why is he just wandering around? He's heard the destruction of Jerusalem. He's heard about the walls. He's just looking around. He wants to go and he wants to get alone. He wants to see the walls for himself. He wants to see the problem for himself. He gets alone in the dark and he walks around, he surveys, and he sees the problem, and he sees, okay, I know what we're dealing with. God, I need your help. We need your help. Nehemiah is one of the stories that I want to focus on, the primary one today. But I want to look at another one. Numbers chapter number 13. Turn to Numbers chapter number 13. We're not going to do near as much as background on this one for time. But Nehemiah chapter number 13, verse number 1, it says, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. Verse number 21, we're going to skip a bunch of verses. In verse number 21, So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob, as men came to Hamath. So we're looking at two groups of men today. We're looking at the men of Nehemiah that are building the wall of Jerusalem. Then we're going to look at the 12 spies. The 12 spies were, at this point, they've come out of Egypt. They are come to the land of Canaan. They realize, they know this is the plot of land that God has promised us and for our children and for our people. And God speaks to Moses and tells Moses, you need to choose 12 men, one of every tribe, men that have proven themselves to be capable, men that have proven themselves to be competent, men that are trustworthy. Choose those 12, send them out. We need a report. They were selected to do a specific job. They're supposed to go into the land and search it out. They're going to the land and search it out. That's what we want to look at right now. They're going into the land of Canaan. Now we have Nehemiah about to build the wall, the men that are about to go into the land of Canaan. All right, and then we're going to jump back to Nehemiah. Jump back to Nehemiah chapter number 3. We're going to flip back a little bit, back and forth, just for the beginning here. So Nehemiah chapter number 3, verses 1 through 4. We see here, right after Nehemiah says we're going to arise and build, Nehemiah chapter number 3 says, Then Eliashib the high priest rose up with his brethren the priests, and they builded the sheep gate. They sanctified it and set up the doors of it, even unto the tower of Meha. They sanctified it unto the tower of Menaniel. And next unto him builded the men of Jericho, and next to them builded Zakur, the son of Imri. But the fish gate did the sons of Hassenaah build, who also laid the beams thereof, and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof. And this entire chapter essentially tells us that the way Nehemiah had set it up is that each person, each group was given a certain section of the wall to build. And they were going to build the wall in sections. They were given specific instructions. They were given specific instructions of how thick it was supposed to be, how long it was supposed to be. I looked up, there were some calculations that this wall was going to be about 2 miles long at least, and it could range anywhere between 6.5 feet to 15 feet thick. All right? This is for a defensive wall. This is not just like a wall for decoration. This is not a shrub. This is a wall that's supposed to hold off an army if they come in. That's why that's why it was a problem for the wall. Basically, if you're a city and if you have anything of value, as soon as an army sees that you're a target that's worth attacking, if you have no defenses, you're completely vulnerable. That army can run in and take all of your stuff. You can't defend yourself. And so really, if you don't have a wall, there's really no point in having anything valuable or anything precious or have anything of value because it's going to get taken from you. So really, their entire way of life is threatened because they don't have a wall. All right, so this is not a small thing. This is not just a wood and timber wall. This is a wall that has to be very structural, very large. It's going to take a lot of work. But they've been given specific instructions. They were each responsible for their section of the wall. They were each responsible. Now, let's turn back again to Numbers chapter number 13. See what the spies were supposed to do. Numbers chapter number 13. We see specific instruction given. They wouldn't just automatically do something so organized. They were given instruction on which section of the wall they're supposed to build. Numbers chapter number 13, 18 through 20. It says here in verse 18, it says, "And see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land." Now the time was in the time of the first ripe grapes. They were given a job. They were to determine whether they were strong or weak, few or many, whether the land was good or bad, whether they were to dwell in tents or in strongholds, whether the land be fat or lean, whether the land give any valuable supplies such as wood. They were given specific instructions. Both groups given specific instructions on what they were supposed to do. It wasn't just vague. It wasn't just, hey, we're just going to build this thing, go do it. Same thing with the spies. It wasn't just said, hey, go out, look in the land, come back, just give me your opinion. Just whatever you see, whatever you happen to think is important. No, Moses said, you need to report back to me and tell me these few things, whether it's profitable for land to farm, whether there's few or many of them, whether they're strong or weak. I want you to tell me exactly what I need to know. So then they're sent out. Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "Then Eliashib the high priest rose." All right, and the others rose to build. Numbers 13:21, so they went up. So they were both given specific instructions. Both groups went up. Okay, these were obviously capable men. You're not going to trust people with these kind of jobs if these men were not proven to be capable. So very much so up to this point, the Nehemiah wall and the 12 spies are very similar to each other. To begin, they're very similar. But I want you to notice quickly here what the results were. The results were completely different. Nehemiah 6:15 says, "So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul, and 50 in 2 days." They finished a 2-mile plus long wall that was 6.5 feet to 15 feet thick in 52 days. We see here, if we were to look at a little bit more at chapter number 6, that the people that were opposing them, they had opposed them in several things already up to this point, but they had plans to do even more, to impact them, to slow them down and to afflict them even more. But it's literally one day they woke up and they saw that the wall was already done, and they couldn't put their plans into action. Why? Because these men worked. They didn't just do their job, they did it consistently, the best they possibly could. You don't just accidentally build a wall like that. You don't just accidentally build that in 52 days having taken a day off. Well, I'm not gonna work that hard today. I'm not gonna meet my quota. I'm not gonna push that hard. We've been going pretty hard for 10 days or so. You know what, we can take a couple day rest. They didn't say that. They pushed hard. In 50 in 2 days, they worked hard. They worked the best of their ability. They did their job without complaining. They simply did the part that they were given. They worked hard. Now, what was the result of the 12 spies? The 12 spies. Now, we're going to read a good amount of verses here again. It says here, "Moses sent them out to spy the land of Canaan," in Numbers chapter 13, 17 through 33. It says, "And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Go ye up this way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many." And such things is so explaining in verse number 21. "So they went up and searched the land from the wildernesses of Zin unto Rehob, as men came unto Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came unto Hebron, where Ahiman and Sheshai and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And they came unto the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes. And they bare it between two upon a staff. And they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs." So they're collecting samples, they're collecting proof. "The place was called the brook Eshcol, because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came unto the land whither thou sentest, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went with him said, We be not able to go against this people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which were come of the giants, and we were in our sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. We have two completely different results. The spies go out and they come in, and they don't report just directly to Moses. They decide, you know what, I'm actually going to give my opinion. I'm actually going to say, I'm going to spread and I'm going to declare that I actually don't think this is possible. They came back, they did not do their job. That was not what Moses told them to do. Moses told them to go out, see whether there's fruit, see whether it was a good land, see if there's few or many, see if they're strong, report back to me. Instead, they reported to Moses what they wanted to report to him, and then they started telling the rest of the people that, hey, this is not possible. I know God says that we're supposed to take this land, or maybe Moses said that God says. Maybe we don't know if Moses is never right, because Moses could be imperfect. People can be wrong at some point, right? But then they ultimately start spreading around that this is not doable. This is not doable for us. They start spreading doubt. They start spreading contention. The spies in Canaan were to go out and see the land if it was worth fighting for. They were not supposed to do that. Moses didn't want them to report back to the people. They wanted them to report back directly to Moses and just tell them what they've seen. Moses didn't ask for their opinion. Moses didn't want to know whether they thought it could be done or not. God has not called you to take the land yourself, but to go out and see if the land is worth fighting for, and if you believe that God can take it. They came back believing that God could not take the land. 10 out of 12 doubted. 10 out of 12 did not do their job. Them not doing their job resulted in 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. I bet the spies didn't think that was a consequence. You know what I think? I think the spies really thought that, hey, if I come back and if I tell the people that I really don't think it's doable, I don't really think that we can overcome the giants, maybe Moses will just redirect us to a different plot of land. We've come out of Egypt, we've been slaves, we can really settle with a plot of land that we really don't have to die for. We can settle for something else other than Canaan. I really think that's what they thought. We'll just redirect. We don't have to fight. If we just spread our opinion, we can make it to where Moses can't really go for Canaan. None of us have to die. None of us have to try. We can just go somewhere else. Instead, they were punished with 40 years of wandering. They didn't realize that their job was that important to where there was serious consequences. Now here's what I want to apply it to. What's our job within the church that God's given to us, the job that we have, the task that we have? God's given to us specific instructions that we're supposed to follow. Our pastor's given us specific instructions that we're supposed to follow. In our life, we know what we're supposed to do. We've been instructed with the Bible. How is it turning out? How are we doing it? Are we doing it more like Nehemiah and the people that built the wall, or are we doing it more like the spies? We are not seeing the result that we want because we're mixing our opinions too much into it. Or like Nehemiah, or we're doing it the way Nehemiah said, and they just did exactly as they were instructed because this is what God wanted them to do. We see the results. The results were completely different. Instead, there was Nehemiah who set a record and surprised everybody. 52 days. That's less than 2 months. Building a huge wall. Or there's the spies that went into Canaan and they didn't take the land. It's because they did not do their job, because they did not do it properly. They had to wander around for 40 years. They did not execute what God wanted them to do because they did not do their job. They did not believe in God. They decided to exercise extra, more than what they wanted to be done, more than what Moses instructed them to do. The spies added and changed to their job. They decided to, you know what, this isn't enough. I'm going to do a little extra. I'm going to do what I want on top of this. I'm going to put a little bit of flavor on this. I'm going to add my personality to this job. Instead of just simply doing what they were asked to do. And these were, again, both of these men, if you're tasked with building a section of the wall, you've proven yourself to be responsible. You've proven yourself to supervise, be able to be capable of leading and being able to construct something. These men were one. Moses said, choose one man from every tribe. Every tribe. Choose one person that you trust. They came back. These are not just the 10 men that doubted, that did not do their job, that came back giving their opinions, spreading doubt. Were not men that had this reputation. They had a reputation of believing God at this point. They had a reputation of being responsible. They had a reputation of, this is a good guy. But once they're given that job, they go out and they see, this is too hard. Yes, it flows with milk and honey. It has grapes. There's a lot of stuff here. But taking this land is going to be too much for us. I know God has told us that this is where we need to go. Moses says this is where we need to go, but honestly, I don't really see it. I don't really want to go that far. I don't want to do what needs to be done to clear this land. I'd rather go somewhere else. I'm sure they were not really aware of the fact that this is going to cause 40 years of wandering. The consequences, they could not understand the consequences. And other people suffered because they didn't do their job the best that they could. There's a story that and ultimately here's a story that I love. I'm a huge history buff. That really kind of, I think, personifies and really explains this really well. There was a battleship in World War II. It's called the USS North Carolina, right, in the Pacific Theater. It was huge. When it was built in like 1942. It was built specifically to fight ships. It had the biggest guns that we had. It was the newest model that we had. And it was built specifically to go mano a mano versus the Japanese ships. It was fitted with the newest anti-aircraft weaponry and everything. The crew was hyped. They wanted to fight. They wanted to go toe-to-toe against the Japanese. When they got out there, they weren't stationed to actually pursue ships. They were stationed to actually just sit back and monitor and protect the carriers because of their new anti-aircraft fire, to protect them from incoming planes. And they were just supposed to sit there and wait. Sit there and let the enemy come to them. And they were actually tasked to monitor and protect the USS Enterprise. The first time they were in combat, the Japanese attacked the Enterprise, and the USS North Carolina actually just sat there. Their goal was to just sit there and wait, let the enemy come to them. In general tactics, what they would have is you'd have 3 different levels of guns. You'd have your 5-inch guns, your 20 millimeters, and then smaller guns. And you'd basically, once the Japanese would get 2 miles out, the 5-inch guns would open up and it would gradually bring them in, right? As they got in range, other guns would open up. They waited and they waited and they waited. Once the Japanese got close, they opened up with everything they had. They kind of lured them in, and they opened up. And the Japanese, once the North Carolina opened up, the Japanese had to change their flight plan completely because it was just so intense. The captain of the USS carrier of the USS Enterprise actually called them and asked them, have you been hit? Are you on fire? Because they opened up just so violently, because they trained. They wanted to do the best they possibly could, and they waited. As a matter of fact, there's reports of when the North Carolina first opened up in their first battle, that people in the holds of the ships that were around them actually heard the the audio difference. Like there was a boom when they finally opened up. And throughout the entire war, that ship, the USS North Carolina, was tasked to just bodyguard the USS Enterprise. That was their job, just to sit there. That crew, they said, we're literally built to beat and to defeat battleships. We're built to go mano a mano versus Japanese ships, but instead you just want us to sit here? You just want us to protect the aircraft carrier? That seems like a waste of our abilities. That seems like a waste of our size. That seems like a waste of our firepower. But instead, by the end of the war, you'll see that the USS Enterprise that it was tasked to defend turned out to be the most decorated U.S. ship of American history. It had 20 major battle stars. It sunk 73 ships. It damaged 91 other ships more. It destroyed 911 aircraft because the North Carolina did their job. The USS Enterprise was specifically targeted by the Japanese. To sink. They thought the Enterprise to be sunk 3 times. But the North Carolina was actually targeted, was one of the only non-aircraft carriers that was targeted by name by the Japanese because the North Carolina was just so in the way. They thought they sunk it 4 to 5 times with how many times they hit it, with how many times the smoke would come out. North Carolina just kept going. The North Carolina was the ship just behind the Enterprise of most battles being in. But if you look at the record, they've been in 15 major battles. 15 huge battles. Only maybe shot down 15 to 16 aircraft. There's not a huge rap sheet. There's not a huge stat sheet for the North Carolina. They didn't do a whole lot, but they were there every single time. The people that were there, the people that fought those battles knew what the North Carolina did. But the North Carolina is not in the papers. The Enterprise is. The North Carolina is not. But at the end of the war, the North Carolina was in Tokyo Bay when the Japanese surrendered because North Carolina did their job. They didn't care about the recognition. They said, okay, well, this is our spot. This is not necessarily what I pictured us doing. I expected us getting glory. I expected us sinking, going mano a mano, getting into a fist fight, going punch for punch with the Japanese. That's what I expect. I didn't expect to be plucking planes out of the sky. But because of where they were, the Japanese couldn't get a direct line at the Enterprise, couldn't sink them, because the North Carolina was in the way. One of the few American ships that was actually targeted by name routinely. The Japanese thought they had sunk it, and it just couldn't. It kept showing up. It just was constantly there. How do we approach our job? It's not glorious. It's not what I picture. It's not what I really want. So I'm not really going to give my full effort because I don't really care. I don't really understand the big picture. I don't really understand the big picture. Is that how we approach our jobs? Are we more Nehemiah or are we more the 12 spies? I'm going to augment my job. I'm going to augment my task. I'm going to try to put how, I was given these instructions, but I think honestly, I can kind of change that. I think I can kind of go outside of that. The North Carolina didn't change their instructions. They didn't change where they were. They just changed. They wanted to do the best job they possibly could. So they trained to do their job the best that we could. Do we look back and see the things that God's given to us and we just go into autopilot? We just coast. We just coast through and we try to just coast through, put it into autopilot. This is just how I've been doing it for years. This is just how I've been doing it. Well, but can it be improved upon? Can we do it better? Can we work harder? Can we be more efficient? Can we be better? Can we give God a better effort? Can we do our best? Can we make it? Can we have an impact? Can we try to improve what we're doing? Are we actually doing our job or are we doing less than our best? What is our job? Ultimately, what is our job? John chapter number 9, it says, I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man worketh. One of our simple jobs is just do the works that God has given us to do. We must work the work that God has sent us to do. There's little things. The little things, I don't really care about the little things. I'm not going to stress about the little things. I'm going to do the things that I think are important. The factors that are important about my job. I'm not going to worry about the other things, the technical things I'm supposed to do. That doesn't really matter that much. The little things, if we ignore the little things and if we don't do the best that we possibly can, it's not going to be done right. We're supposed to do everything we're asked to do to the best we possibly can because there's a bigger picture, a bigger plan than us. The USS North Carolina could have at any point said, we're not having the impact on this greater war plan that we possibly could have had. We're big enough. We have guns that can reach 28 miles out. Their 16-inch guns had a range of 28 miles. Instead, we're going to sit here and we're going to shoot at planes. But instead, no, they decided to do the best job they possibly could where they were. And they had an impact. They made it to where the Japanese lost the war. The Americans won the war in large part because they did their job the best they possibly could. They thought and they sought and they looked for better ways to possibly do their jobs, to better accurately to aim and such. They were the best trained anti-aircraft crew in the entire fleet at that time. Mark 16:15 says, and he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Is being a soul winner and being soul-minded and gospel spreading just not your thing? Not something that I'm going to really stress about. Not something that I'm really going to prioritize. That's something for other people to do. I'm not going to really spread the gospel. I'm not even actually going to stress to learn how to spread the gospel. I'm not going to really try to become a better presenter of the gospel. I'm not going to learn how to present it better. I'm not going to learn any of those things. I'm just going to, that's for other people to do. That's not our attitude. That is something that God has commanded and given all of us directives to do, to know how to present the gospel, to be added soul winners, to be in a place to where if someone comes up to you and someone is in your circle that does not know God as their personal Savior and is going to hell, God has placed you in a spot to where you're his only shot. You're in that spot. That's your position, is to talk to them, to pray about that, is to present that gospel. It's like, no. Spreading the gospel one of the things that you just get to pick. It's one of the ministries that I'm not going to do. It's one of those ministries on the list. I'm going to do 3 of the ministries so I appease myself, and then I'm not going to spread the gospel. That's not something I'm going to do. How much do we stress that? Do we stress that at all? Are we doing that job? Are we praying? Do we have a relationship with God? Mark 13:33. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. 1 Thessalonians 5:17, it says, pray without ceasing. Luke 18:1, it says, and he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. Relationships are built on communication. If we claim that we have a relationship with God, but we barely communicate with him, we don't want to talk to him, there's someone else in our life that we'd rather talk to than God, Is God really the priority in our life? Is God really the person that we love the most? Is God really the one that we want to talk to the most? From what I see, it's ultimately the person you're closest to in your life is the one that you want to talk to the most. And then you get in the position where, well, I could pray right now, but I really don't want to. Or the thought to pray doesn't really pop up in your mind throughout the day. That's something that I'm personally really convicted about. How can I say I have a relationship with God when I pray a little bit in the morning, I can go the entire day and I don't even think about praying again? How is that even possible? That doesn't even make sense. Do we pray? God wants to have a relationship with us. How can we say that we have a relationship with God without wanting to communicate? How can we say, like I said, I basically just already said what's in my notes. Do we pray? Do we sincerely talk to God? Is that something that we do, or is that just something, that's just whatever. I don't really need to do that. I've done my deed. I've done my prayer thing this morning. I'm done. I'm good. Do we take care of what we've been given? Luke 12:42, when the Lord said, "Who then is that faithful and wise servant who his Lord shall make ruler over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season?" Who's going to take care of what God's given to you if you don't? God's given you some things. God's given you some responsibilities. Do you take care of them? Do the jobs, the little jobs, the big jobs that God's given to you, do you take them seriously, or are they just, I'm just going to go through the motions. I'm just going to check some boxes. I'm just going to do what I need to do. I'm going to fill the time. I'm going to do enough to where I don't get in trouble. I'm going to do enough where people trust me, think I'm a good Christian, and that's it. That's not going to build a wall. That's not going to get Nehemiah's wall built. That's not going to be, well, I'm just going to show up to work. I'm going to put in my 8 hours, and then this wall is going to be built. I guarantee you none of them put in 8 hours. I'm pretty sure they put in a lot more than that per day. Are we an example? 1 Timothy 4:12. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity. Yes, I know that this is in context as far as Paul instructing Timothy to be an example of the believers. Let no man despise thy youth because he's being young. But ultimately, he's basically saying, don't let who you are be an excuse. Don't give any excuses. You're supposed to be an example of the believers. Instructing us, we're supposed to be an example of the believers. Your life should bring other people to a place of decision. That's what soul winning does. That's what preaching does. That's what the life of the believer should be. Your life should be in the sense that when someone looks at your life and how you conduct yourself, someone has come to a point where they need to make a decision. Okay, I want to live like that. I want to get closer to God, or no, I don't want to be like that. If you're just living an average life that just, I just show up, I do my thing, whatever, no one's going to be convicted about the life that you're living. That's not going to bring people to a place of decision to where I want to get closer to God because I want what he has. Or instead, you know what, I don't want anything to do with God. You know what, that seems too hard. I'm not going to do that. Our life, our example, the way we conduct ourselves is supposed to bring people to a place of decision. Are we an example? That's our job. Are we doing that? Essentially, let no man despise thy youth says that we're not supposed to have excuses. And ultimately, the devil is going to surrender, yes. Just like the Japanese surrendered with the North Carolina, the devil is going to the devil will lose, and we know that. But sometimes we act like we're okay with just making it a tight game. I'm okay with winning 33-30. I want to run up the score. I want to do my job. I want to win by a lot. That's what we should want. We should want to win by a lot. When God gives us a task, or maybe if we get the time to where we can do something else for God, we should want to do that. We should want to embrace that. God, I want to do more, and I want to do my absolute best. I don't want to do just haphazardly. I don't want to do little. I don't want to give little effort. I want to do my absolute best. We may not be the guy that gets the trophies and the recognition like the North Carolina or the guys in Nehemiah. You may not get those things. But when we see Christ, we should want to be able to say, I did my job. I did my job. Nothing less, nothing more. I did my job. I did the best I possibly could. I was tired because I tried. I was tired because I wanted to see, I wanted to look, I wanted to see, and I wanted to see if there was any way to do it better. I tried to push. As we see, Noel and Andrew even, they do a great job running the sound. You'll go entire Sundays without even realizing that that anything even happened. The sound was great. That's because they care. They're detail-oriented. The sound was good when you don't even notice them. They're always on time. They're consistently making sure this mic is in place because they're detailed-oriented, and they try to do their job the best they possibly can. if they were to just coast, if they were to just start, you know what, it's fine, we haven't had a mess up the last couple of weeks, we can kind of relax. Well, that's exactly when the sound's going to go wrong, and the preacher, someone's going to, if something goes high-pitched through the sound system, it doesn't matter what pastor is preaching, everyone in the service is going to remember when the sound cut out, not what pastor said. But the sound men, they care about their job. We see that. Now, if they were to just let it go, as the second law of thermodynamics says, basically the law of total entropy, everything, if you just leave it go, things are going to get worse. If we just let our jobs go, it's just going to get worse. If we aren't constantly striving to be better at our jobs, it's going to get worse by nature. We know that. We've seen that. It's going to get worse. We may say, well, I've just been teaching this way for years and years. I've just been doing this XYZ for years and years. I've been cleaning this way for years and years. Yes, but are we coasting? Are we coasting now? That's just how I've always done it. If you notice, a coasting car does pretty good downhill. Downhill, when things are easy, when the environment is easy, when the environment is conducive to the work that you want to do, coasting is easy. Coasting actually gets stuff done. But once you start going uphill, once there's obstacles, once the environment isn't so conducive to what you want to do, the car doesn't go anywhere. The car stops. Are we coasting? We're not actually putting power to our job. We're not actually putting effort to it. That's why we're not making headway. That's why we're not making progress. We get frustrated. Well, maybe it's because we're not really trying to. We're not constantly taking stock of, can I do this better? Is there something is there something else? There's some little details that I can fix, that I can do best for God. Is there a way I can make this job better? Am I really doing my best? I just run the system however I want to run it. This is just how we do it. But could it be better? I clean how I have always cleaned, but could it be better? I greet the brethren and the visitors the same I always have, but could I be better with that? We're supposed to just do our job. I'm not saying just as in just coast. I'm saying just as in simply do your job. It's super important. North Carolina had a huge task. They had a huge job. They had a huge part in that victory of winning the war. The people that were there knew that they did. They weren't in the papers. That's not the point. The men that built the wall, they weren't going to be recognized, each one of them by name, because this is not the point. Us as men, are we doing our job, not caring about who gets the recognition, but still pushing to do our best? Because that's what we're supposed to do. Just do your job, the best you can. No more, no less. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for this time being in church. I pray that you allow us to get everything that we need to out of your word today from the pastor and from the preachers and the teachers throughout the building. I pray that they be clear-headed. I pray that they be clear-minded. And again, I pray that your Spirit just have your way in this service as you will. I pray that there be no hearts that are closed off to whatever you want to speak to us through, and however you want us to change and however you want us to be molded. And I pray that you just allow us to speak the way we need to speak and conduct ourselves the way we need to conduct ourselves. And I pray that each of us have the impact today for your people and for your will that you would intend us to have. Amen.